What's up, everybody? Welcome to Color Scheme Breakdown. This is where I talk entirely too long about one particular color scheme in question and give you my overall thoughts on it, whether I think it needs to be revamped or whatnot, and then give you my thoughts on how to try and achieve said color scheme. So, I think the only one I've done is Firehawks, and then I did a variation of this called Model Breakdown, which is looking at a particular kit in question doing the same exact thing. So I want to go ahead and do yet another color scheme breakdown, and this is going to be on the Grey Knights Space Marine chapter, a Loyalist Astartes chapter, a unique chapter in war gear and function and all that. So with that said, their color scheme, for a lot of you who know what they look like, and obviously looking at the pictures of them now, seems very straightforward, and why talk about it? Well, a color scheme doesn't have to be complex to talk about. Plus, the Grey Knights have a bit more going on than normal. The armor is a bit more ornate. They have personal heraldry and Nemesis force weapon effects you can make use of, which adds as much depth as you desire to your Grey Knight models, as well as cloth to do in either red or beige color or both, depending on how you want to do it. So there's a lot you can do to really make your models pop and feel different from somebody else's Grey Knight force. So let's look at the basic breakdown of the color scheme. That is silver armor, which we'll get back to in a moment, using gold accenting for ornate parts of the armor. Red, white, and black used for personal heraldry of the Grey Knight, either on a shoulder pad or on a little heraldic shield that's on their shoulder pad. Cloth tends to be done in red or like a beige or a bit of both. You know, one side red, the other side beige, depending upon preference and everything like that. Their helmet lenses tend to be done a glowy blue, a bright kind of white blue almost. Their weapons, particularly the ranged weapons, tend to be black for storm bolters, and then anything else tends to be red. Now it's a sports weaponry. Is kind of silver, gold, accenting pieces, and then the blade is where you do different effects you so desire, whether it's lightning effects, whether it's doing a shimmer effect, whatever the case might be. So with that said, simple yet sharp color scheme with one added bonus to the silver part. The silver has an effect that I call the Aegis effect, an Aegis blue effect, if you will, because it's a subtle blue hue, a subtle blue glaze effect, a really watered down subtle blue, applied to parts of the armor as where you would typically do a darker shade of a color if this was a non-metallic color. And it's done subtly with a less is more approach because you still want it to feel very much silver with some type of arcane sheen, some Aegis effect as it is with their Aegis armor. You don't want it to feel like a metallized blue. So you want it to still very much feel silver, so less is more. Keeping it subtle is very important. But that's what really helps them also stand out from another silver armor group, is they have this effect going over their armor. On top of their armor looking different, having the ornateness done in gold, having the Nemesis Force Weapon Storm Bolter combination, they look different. It's sharp armor that really can't be mistaken because they're not equipped like normal Astartes, so it's hard to mistake them for somebody else or mistake somebody else for them, which is an added bonus. So, with that said, I like it. Since I can remember, the Grey Knights has basically been showcased like this. If you look at some of the old Rogue Trader era stuff, their armor still tends to be more of a silver, not really a gray. The artwork tends to show them a bit more grayish, but you're really only going to see straight up Grey Knights in any real capacity from fans who decide to paint them literal to their namesake, and it ends up looking good. Some people doing more of a non-metallic steel effect, and it ends up looking really sharp, but we're looking at the official color scheme, if you will, and that is a silver, and it's a very nice, sharp color scheme. So what's nice about this? Well, even with the Aegis blue effect, as I call it, you have the basic rundown of the armor colors, something you can block in very quickly and very sharply on your models. The silver, even the gold accenting, can be done relatively quickly, whether you're using acrylic or alcohol-based paint, it doesn't matter. So you can get a whole squad relatively blocked in and mostly done in a relatively short amount of time. From there, doing the red and white and black heraldry as you so desire, or in the case of the Purifier squads having white helmets and white shoulder pad insets, you can go a bit more technical and do things. And if you want a way to do the white of the Purifiers, Duncan on Warhammer TV's YouTube page, if you do a search for it, has a very nice video that really breaks it down very nicely to make it look pretty sharp. So that's cool. With that said, It then comes to how you want to apply the red and the white, maybe a black stripe or whatever, in terms of personal heraldry on a shoulder pad inset or a heraldic shield, if you will. It's up to you what you want to do and how you want to do it. There's even some decals you can put on them as well to really help it stand out, which is cool. But that is where you get to add some flourish and some detail and take some time and really pick out and make them feel unique for the heroes that they are. The Nemesis Force Weapon, as I mentioned, is another place you can really slow down your process and go as in-depth and crazy as you want if you so desire. Even with those two things, they're relatively small real estate. Shoulder pad, a little small shield bit, and a weapon blade. That's about it in terms of super complexity potential, right? Unless you want to just go crazy with anything. But I say that specifically because this still lets you lead to a very sharp looking elite force still pretty quickly. I'd say this would go faster and with the speed and still looking sharp a lot easier than doing Deathwing, for example. So the force, you're not really feeling like you're going to be sacrificing the quality of your force while assembly lining and blowing through these models, because metallic stuff is very easy to block in very sharply, especially with the alcohol-based paints, which is what I would use. And if you're going to use them, remember to use 91% isopropyl alcohol or higher in place of water. Don't use water. Whatever you use to do the silver base armor, which is the only color I'm really going to go into my thoughts on how to paint quickly, and not just paint quickly, but how to paint it in general. Whatever you use, you're going to want to put a nice silver layer down, wash it, not too dark of a wash, but just some type of black wash just to get into recesses to give you that, beginnings of popping and getting into detail and all that. And then do a dry brush or a careful layer paint in certain areas of silver yet again. You can do a dry brush alcohol-based paint just as well as you can with acrylic, so don't worry about that. Once you get the silver to, yes, that's a nice silver, this is where you want to be careful. Maybe do a test on a sprue somewhere or something. You want to get whatever blue glaze or glaze-like effect paint you like the most, whether it's Citadel, whether it's Vallejo, whether it's some alcohol thing, whatever it is. Whatever you have that's a nice glaze-like consistency in terms of being really translucent and thin blue, you want to get. Think if you ever seen any type of stainless steel or like anodized-ish steel where it almost has a blue sheen to it, typically in chains and whatnot to help prevent rust. That's kind of what you're going for. You're not looking for it to be blue at first glance, but still very much feel silver and just have this weird, almost subtle, you're not really picking up on it being blue, you're picking up on it just shading the silver. Going to certain recesses, you're giving the illusion of it, you're giving the sense of it, so you don't need to do it absolutely everywhere that would make sense to do it. You're going to pick out certain areas, maybe a light little touch on the bottom of the leg, a light little touch on the bottom of their arms, a light little touch somewhere else, and you're good. And it's just a case, or it becomes a case, I should say, of experimentation and less is more. The nice thing is if you go a little overboard, you could very easily touch up and cover your mistakes with silver again. So it's not the end of the world if you go a little too overboard, but less is definitely more. You're looking to give off an effect, a subtle effect, something that at first glance they see, they recognize, but they don't have the ability to immediately point out blue, right? Because if you do that, then you're feeling more like a metallized blue and not quite a silver. So that is how I would do their silver armor. From there, the way in which you can really make your force feel more your own and personalize it is through, like I mentioned, the heraldry, the red and the white with some black and some decals to help it out on the shoulder pad inset and the heraldic shield bit. The Nemesis Force Weapon effect, however you want to do that, whether you're doing lightning effects, whether you're doing the shimmer effect, whether you're doing this a glowing blue, it's up to you. And then, of course, the tabards and the cloth and all that jazz. This goes a little beyond the scope of color scheme breakdown, but if you take the very neutral, basic robe marine bit for the Dark Angel veteran squad box stuff without any Dark Angel icons on it, you can use that as the basic body and put all Grey Knight bits on top of that, backpack, helmet, arms, and all that, and you can have a very sharp squad leader, and you can do that in a very bold red, for example. Red robes, very bold, and the rest of the armor in silver and the rest of the model in silver, and have a very popping squad leader to really make your army pop a bit more. You can do something like that. Again, still using the Aegis blue silver effect, if you will, and doing the heraldry how you wish. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do when you start looking at bits to really make the force feel your own. I think it's a sharp looking force. I think it gets the point across. When you have a brighter, more gleaming silver like they have, they're Grey Knights, their elite Terminators are called Paladins. For example, it has that holy feel, that purity feel to it, and but it's not quite as ostentatious and in your face and pompous as gold. They just have some gold accenting there with further adds to it and gives them a bit of that feel, I guess, but subtly. So I like the look a lot. They're a really sharp looking force. Being a metallic force in terms of color, again, like I mentioned multiple times already, you can have them look very sharp very fast, so you're able to block in a bunch of squads or a bunch of models relatively quickly, and then take your time doing the parts that really are meant to help the model pop and stand out: the weapons, the heraldry, and the cloth. So with that in mind, share your thoughts about the Grey Knights color scheme in the comment section below. You can always leave any requests or any questions or anything like that in the comment section as well. This new YouTube setup with YouTube Creator Studio beta stuff or whatever, I'm kind of figuring out so I can respond to comments again. It took me like a solid bit of time to figure out how I can even see the comments on the webpage to respond to, outside of just going to the video in question. So figuring things out. So yes, I'll be able to respond to comments, and that's pretty much that. So thanks very much for sticking through it, and until next time, take it easy.